Welcome back, everybody. This is going to be Stats versus Kier. Great game so far today. Honestly, like both of our best of threes that we had were really interesting. Totally delivered here. We are going to have a ZVZ after this Rogue versus Dark for the elimination match, which that feels kind of weird.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy. In round of 16, Dark and Rogue, one of them is just going to get knocked out. The other one has to prove himself worthy to then go on to the round of 8. May not make it at all.
Yeah, but I mean, Kier just kind of proving in that first series after going down in game number 1 why he is such a force to be reckoned with here in the GSL and why a lot of players consider him to be easily a top 3 Terran player in the world, as he is just so hard to kill in these best of X series. I feel like I've said it a million times, but it's like almost Maru, and Maru only can do it here in Korea. And we'll see if Stats going to change that. He looked potentially even better than he did in the previous season in those PBZs against Dark. And I know both games Dark went for Queenling Nidus, so it's kind of not the best litmus test for exactly where Stats is at, but those are the kind of games that you play and you build some momentum, you gain some confidence. Stats going to be feeling really good coming in here against Kier.
All right, we're going to go to Oceanborn to start this best of 3 off here, a PVT, to decide who will get that 7th spot in the round of 8.
Let's get ready to rumble, rumble. Let's get ready to rumble. You looking for trouble? Let's get ready to rumble, rumble. Let's get ready to rumble. Tell them it's going down now. Let's.
All right. Stats spawning is the blue Protoss in the bottom right, Kier in the top left, the red Terran.
So, I mean, if you guys hear us cast Stats, I feel like we do say this a lot, but I think this game is going to be no exception. Probably Stats on the defending end, Kier trying to be active and attack in there.
Stats
Kier
and
support
Kier,
here.
yeah.
Well, that's another great drawing. These are so good. That is a drawing, right?
That is a drawing, yeah, that's impressive.
That is wild.
You know, all the best people in the world, they're GSL fans. Can you believe it?
They are, yeah.
Look at how many
All the
artists
most
we have in the
talented, skilled
audience.
people. Yeah, we've great signs in there.
This turns out watching StarCraft makes you a better human being.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
You're more moral. Everybody online right now, nothing but, you know, leaders of countries and CEOs. All watching. Taking a break from helping the world to just, you know, see who's going to get to the round of 8.
Well.
Okay, so this is going to be double gas.
Yeah.
Probably a 1-1-1 build.
You would think so here from Kier. A little bit of cheese to start things out. I wonder how heavily he's going to lean into the double gas 1-on-1. Coming in here against Stats as this pro pops in. Let's use the barracks. And should quickly scurry away. And this poor SCV with some pretty bad RNG. Taking quite the beating, but look at this, only 2 in each geyser. So it's not going to be that much of a tech-heavy 1-1-1, I think. It's going to be faster tech with a faster command center than you would normally see in a game. And I wonder how much of this is Kier just trying to throw Stats off a little bit in terms of openings, because this can come across as a lot more aggressive than it actually is, with the command center already being thrown down. I mean, as Protoss players generally at a higher level, one of the big tells in terms of whether Terran is going to be levying a lot of pressure on you in the early game is if they have a command center on the low ground, or if when you send your scouting probe, there's already a 2 supply depot wall. If there's a 2 supply depot wall, basically always it's going to be some kind of 1 base pressure with delayed expand. And so Stats obviously is going to be knowing that. Probably will be looking to try and absorb like a sponge whatever blows Kier can throw his way. Meanwhile, Kier just going for kind of more of a slow textbook delayed expansion build with a faster command center, and instead of going just for a Widowmine drop. Nothing too crazy.
So he's going to be driving the Reaper out here.
Might get the kill.
Yeah. I actually thought he could have gotten that. I think the Reaper would have had to curb up or kind of tilt a little bit up there. Maybe could have actually gotten the kill there.
I was thinking the same thing. I thought for sure that was going to go down.
So it's going to be a really quick Widowmine drop. One of the harder things I'd say to stop early on. This is one of these things where, like, if you don't have your screen in the right spot and are just like ready to react immediately, you will lose a lot of workers. Yeah, and I mean, one Widowmine hit, if that gets like 5 probes, it's so bad.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why this unit got nerfed quite heavily in the previous patches.
Oh, yeah.
How quickly it would just end some games.
Well, it's
PvT.
like you have to just get to a really high level to stop this, or you'll just be knocked out over and over again.
Yeah, and I kind of like the quality of life changes they make with the Widowmine now.
Oh, yeah.
Before it fires, it actually sends the attack sound.
Right.
You get the alert, and so quite hard for Terran players to now get the game-ending damage straight away that they normally would here with the Widowmine. But still some potential to get something done. Stats does seem keen on intercepting this, though. He hasn't just yet spotted the medevac, but with 2 stalkers a little bit out of position, we're looking to intercept the medevac. Instead, it's going to come here into the main base.
Okay, he reacts basically perfectly. And he will pick up each of these I'm sorry, he's actually going to leave these 2 here. This is about as good as you could possibly play.
Yeah, nice
that was
control.
Really well done. He got 4 probes and has not lost anything yet.
Yeah, just sustained a little bit of damage.
Now, I think that 4 is an acceptable number to lose. The Protoss is still building up and basically waiting for their turn to be active and engage on the map. That's not so much stats like in his playstyle as it is this is just what the matchup looks like when you have these 2 build orders interacting.
Yeah, and this is just going to be something that Stats has in the back of his mind for the rest of the game until that Widowmine drop leaves the corner of the map. It's always going to be waiting in the wings. And Kier, it looks like behind this, he's going to be setting up for potentially a Marine tank push. I'm not sure how heavily he's going to commit to this, because oftentimes Terran players, will go into siege tanks just offensively here, but something about the way that Kier is playing this makes me think that he will be eventually moving out and trying to take down that 3rd base here from Stats.
Right.
No 3rd command center just yet. 3rd seems to take about to pop. These stalkers are working their way into the main base. Gonna try and get this add-on here. They should be able to get the reactor. That's a nice pickoff. That's basically the same as killing a medevac or a Viking this early on, which is nice in terms of value here for Protoss.
It's a great catch. I don't think that Kier's going to take any more damage at all here with this. This is just like almost more of a bit of a control play here from Protoss. They come out. Terran will have to fight a little bit more in order to get set up at a 3rd base. There's a lot of gateways warping in.
Yeah, 5
I'm
gates.
sorry. I thought there was a 3rd CC here. Is there not one in the Terran's base at all?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, so this will just come down to a 2-base push and how well the Protoss can wrestle with that on the map.
Yeah, and I believe that's also why Kier has just chosen not to trade out the Widowmines, because he's not looking to outscale Protoss here. He wants to go in with one big move and kill Protoss in one fell swoop. So a timing push, gunning for either the natural expansion or more likely the 3rd base paired with this Raven and the Widowmine drop that just completely taxes the multitasking of the Protoss should be a really good way to approach this here as Kier. But Stat seems like he's quite well positioned to kind of absorb any real blows. He is going to go for a recall here.
Yeah, this shield battery is becoming very handy right now, so that doesn't really get anything done. Stim's about to finish, and Terran's going to be moving out. Now, the Observer sees it.
Yeah.
Terran is moving through the top of the map. I think that Stats can hold this, or at least he should be able to. He's got all of his gateways up. He's upgrading thermal ants.
I'm trying to remember exactly who it was that was kind of playing this style of PvT that we casted earlier in GSL. I think it might have even been Nightmare, who stopped at 6 to 8 stalkers and then went super heavy into the charge zealots on a relatively low number of gases, because we have a lot of charge lots already out here, Tasteless. This army that Stats has built is very good at fighting. And oh, look at him actually coming in right now. As soon as the Widowmines burrow, might be a little bit of an overextension there for Stats. The zealots truly don't get that much done. Was able to force out the auto turrets there, so there is a little bit of a win, but oh, careful, careful, careful. Holy, oh man.
That could have gone a lot worse. I'm glad he stopped himself when he did.
Yeah, but this is an interesting angle that Kier is coming from. I wasn't really anticipating him trying to hit the gases in the natural extension.
I thought this was going to be a straight-up push, but instead he's just going to take advantage of this ledge over here. Now, the thermal lance is almost done. Or actually, it is done, excuse me. Yeah, I guess he can also hit the Robo from here. How funny is this?
Yeah, but the Colossi with a shield battery and thermal lance should just be able to deal with this. I mean,
Yeah, this should all die over time.
Yeah, the Medivacs eventually will run out of mana.
Keep in mind, like, Terran's on 2 bases. There's no third base yet.
I think it just now is starting to fly over to the third.
He might be floating it there, but Protoss is taking a 4th.
More Stalkers getting warped in here for Stats. Stalkers still on Widowmine keeping duty there in the main base, and I believe Stats has enough of a gateway army that he can just kind of come in and deal with this. Now, those Widowmines burrowing should be able to focus fire down some of these Stalkers. In fact, only one of them gets the shot off, so not quite the connections Kier was looking for there as this drop gets cleaned up relatively easily.
Yeah, so Terran has to ditch this position over here, go back to a fresh third base, and just continue to power up.
Yeah, but Kier just really didn't get what he wanted to done with that push, I think. He was hoping that some combination of the Raven dropping auto turrets, the Widowmine drop in the main base, and then this drop at the 4th and a push maybe at the natural expansion. He wanted one of those engagements to translate into a win that he could retreat off of and then regroup and go for a follow-up attack, and nothing really won it for him. Kier instead just kind of took a couple of engagements that didn't really go his way. The drop all the way down to the 6 o'clock position was parried relatively easily there by Stats. The push into the natural expansion of Stacks, it got an assimilator and not much else.
Yeah.
And Stats has been able to power up relatively well. He has his second Robo coming in, the second Forge is online, +2 ground weapons and +1 armor, both underway. And this is the stage in the game where Stats gets really scary to play against. If he can navigate his way through the mid game safely in basically any matchup and find his way into the late game, he is one of the hardest Protoss players in the world to kill.
Yeah, and this is what that game is, slowly becoming here. He's now going to push out. And look, I don't see any Medivacs on the map ready for any kind of counter draw play. So I think this is going to come down to whether or not Kier can actually defend this attack. We've got a pylon being made, and probably soon a gateway to be made over there in the middle of the map. But I mean, he's just basically opening this position up so he can easily traffic units from the bottom right into the top left, then eventually warp them there in the center of the map and hit that. Well, that's funny. He never retook the gas.
Yeah, I retook it at the third base instead, just playing a 4-gas style, almost Max Pax-esque.
So a couple more gateways are going to finish, and it should be time to hit.
Yeah, and I love this 4-gas style for Protoss players in general. Just so much power in the army that you build. So many charge zealots, and with charge zealots is such a mineral dump. You're allowed to just spend the excess gas on taking up to a second Robo.
Right.
Into 2 Forge, into +3 ground weapons, +2 ground armor.
But
quite
he hasn't,
efficiently. But
he hasn't hit yet, though. I'm kind of surprised.
Eventually, you do need to trade it out. And I'm getting a little bit concerned here for Stats because he hasn't... Oh, does he know? Has he caught Kier actually moving? I feel like he's not yet aware. There is a spotter pylon all the way down close to the 6 o'clock position, so he should get an idea.
Yeah, seeing the Vikings move, that would tell him that the army is going to be down here. Now, this is going to be kind of an awkward angle. The Terran's coming up underneath the Protoss.
Stats, it seems like his game plan is to try and absorb.
Oh my God, it's almost like they're Zerglings or something. He's just going to send these Zealots out and hit whatever he can. Beautifully done with the Disruptors.
Yeah, gets a couple of Marauders right there. SCV's going down to these charged Zealots, and Stats with his mineral bank and the healthy gateway count should just be able to remax on these Zealots relatively easy in the middle of the map. Did he even recall some of those Zealots at the main base ramp? So cool.
Might as well. I mean,
6 more gateways, by the way, in production, Tasteless.
So many more bases here for Stats. A push is going to come out here. He's going to have these Disruptors.
Armor Shredding Missile pops, but I feel like with the Disruptors, Terran really cannot close the distance to capitalize. There's at least one more shot, I think, here for Protoss, so Kier just has to bide his time. And the really scary part of this upcoming engagement here for Kier is how quickly Stats is going to remax on his healthy gateway count, because he already has a 1,600 mineral bank. Engagement now coming in. Charles Zealots, actually the Stalkers blink forward, immediately focused down the Raven. It was able to get the armor shredding missile off. Oh, look at that Disruptor shot. Finally gets defused there at the last possible second, but the second shot is good there for Stats. Kier with a little bit of a win here, able to take down most of the Colossi. That Disruptor will follow as well, but a lot of Zealots just warped in, Tasteless.
Yeah, he's going to have these Zealots trying to push this back. 3 Disruptors are the only thing technical that Stats has for the time being. All the Colossi have been wiped out, and they're not being remade. It's going to be 2 more Disruptors pumped out for now. Terran basically wins the fight in the middle of the map, and it's going to be up to Protoss to try to defend here.
Yeah, and Terran's army is looking a little bit better, but let's not forget, there's only 4 Medivacs, so they're relatively low on energy, so every stim is eventually going to start costing Kier quite a bit, especially with the Gateway Remax coming in. All these Charge Zealots moving forward, they're taking down Vikings, Ghosts, this Disruptor shot even comes in and connects. Nice split there by Stats. He's trying to get more damage done, but I think the reinforcements from Kier might be just enough, Tasteless.
Yeah, Kier's going to close in once more and bite out another big chunk of everything the Protoss has. Only, what, 2 disruptors in the group right now. Another pair going to meet up with this.
Kier was caught sleeping there. A lot of supply lost that disruptor shot as the Gateway Remax once again comes in, this time with +3 ground weapons. Those Stalkers quickly taking down the first medevac as Stats is getting the best trades he possibly can, and I feel like Kier slowly running out of steam. Kier was able to take a new expansion. His 5th base is up freshly at that 12 o'clock position, transforming into a planetary fortress. Stats, excuse me, now re-expanding all the way at the top right side. And Stats playing the style, yeah, he was able to hang on to the middle, but he was never really able to get any of the Zealot counterattacks that are a trademark part of this playstyle because that first fight went so poorly for him in the middle. He really needed to use all of his bank to stabilize in the center, and now, I mean, oh my god.
Dude.
So many gateways.
It's crazy because, you know, you can lose a lot in the fight and immediately it's going to be warped back in. But look, you know, Kier is continuing to grow. I guess the same could be said for Stats. He's now even taken a base in the very bottom left. He's taken every base that's on his side of the map. If you were to slice the map diagonally, he's got all the bases he can get. And that doesn't mean he can't try to expand over to Kier's side, but this is becoming a pretty crazy game here.
Yeah, and I feel like if Kier identifies the situation that Stats is playing this, not defensively, but he's playing this gas list and just hunkers down and defends, Kier's going to find himself in a really good spot, but he's got to be careful not to get caught out of position like that. There is a Widow Mine here to assist in defending the planetary fortress. Zealot's not quite able to get the surround that they need. Will the Disruptors be able to zone away all the bio and the Ghost here at the ramp? I'm not sure. There's only a couple shots left. Oh, the first shot is so good! What a connection!
I mean, the thing is, Terran just doesn't have as many bases to lose at this point in time. You know, the Protoss has got so much of an income. Just taking out one base for Stats is going to be huge. Now, he lost a lot. The trade was pretty good, but you could see just how much is warped in afterwards. By the way, 3-3 finishes here.
3-3 upgrades here for Kier, finishing up. Guardian Shield even coming in here for Stats is going to try another engagement. Widow Mine shots don't get the best ones off. Liberator range, I don't think it's done quite yet. I did see the Fusion Core in production. Oh man, another big shot potentially, but the great splits there from Kier, man. He is dodging these so well right now.
Seems like Kier's having a harder time actually diving onto the Disruptors, so he has to keep splitting and running.
He's got to be careful though because the Zealots and Stalkers warping in. This could be a great surround here for Stats if he finds the right engagement. That's a lot of gateway units, Tasteless. That's actually with the army supply lead. The Stalker's just going to run over all the Liberators, now focusing down the medevacs. With no healing, these Zealots could actually get a lot of damage done.
Yeah, he's going to come in here and just snipe down these medevacs. He's pushed him all the way back to where that 5th base was.
I feel like this is a huge win right now for Stats. The army supplies, it might have not been the most army supply efficient trade, but the fact that there's basically no medevacs left now for Kier. Medevacs are the reason why Bio scales well against gateway armies like this one. Without the medevac support, eventually those stims, they start to add up. That's why Kier is replenishing the medevacs 3 at a time. He only has 1 on the field. If Stats capitalizes on this opportunity and does not let up on the aggression, he might be able to break Kier right now.
Yeah, he's going to push in over here. The Widow Mines are going to burrow. The SCVs are also being pulled here. There's just so much splash damage with this Colossi here. Again, no Vikings can really be made for the time being because he has to remake all those medevacs.
Wow.
I think Stats is going to be able to push all the way through. In fact, I think Kier is going to have to tap out.
There's just no healing left. The final medevac's finally finished, but it's too late. Kier taps out, and what a well-played game there by Stats. My goodness, is he looking good.
I can't believe Stats might just get out of this group first. I don't know. I mean, look, if you looked at, you know, the votes as well, you know, for who people were predicting, I think Stats was literally at the bottom. I can't believe how well he's playing. Kier has got to be frustrated by that game. I mean, that was a tough one.
I felt like he just wasn't really able to get the mid-game plan off.
He came in there with a pretty technical 2-base harass. You know, he had to drop in the main with the Widow Mines, then he tried to push where that gas geyser was, and another drop with 2 medevacs somewhere else. And his Stats just kind of brushed it off and continued to tack up, and by then it was like gateway god. Just so many gates set up. You know, the moment you wipe out 20 Zealots, they're already warping back in.
Yeah, back in the days of Wings of Liberty, it was Adele Scott that pioneered the low-gas Protoss. In the modern era, it's been Max Pack, so to see Stats adapt like that with such a powerful composition, a strong mid-game against Kier, he might be the first one to advance from this group. Let's go into game number 2.
Let's get ready to rumble, rumble. Let's get ready to rumble. You looking for trouble? Let's get ready to rumble, rumble.
Okay, stats in the bottom right, here in the top left. Let's see what kind of game Kier wants to have here. Let's see if he takes the third base a little bit quicker, too. That was a very delayed third CC. A lot of times when you do this two-base stuff as Terran, where like you get all, your factory starport and then all your racks is up, and it doesn't work early, it's a pretty bad late game. It's pretty hard to recover.
Support for Kier. Coming all the way from Germany. Welcome.
Yeah, welcome. But uh-oh, there's support from Stats, guy from Germany. It looks like the support is balanced out. There you go. Now, yeah, when you see these two-base plays, when they don't work out, usually it's a late game hell for them. If you haven't managed to close it out with that push.
Yeah, that wasn't Kier's strongest mid game, and a lot of it just goes.
I was kind of surprised he went for that.
It was a little bit out of the box.
I thought it would have been at least, like, Medevac, Widowmine drop, maybe 3 bases, something like that.
Yeah, it was a little bit middle of the road where he went for the double gas, but he didn't mind out of both of them completely. So it wasn't this super technical play that's designed to just murder every probe possible. Instead, it was him going for slightly faster tech, and compared to a typical two-gas play, a slightly faster command center. And then the Widowmines, he got some good trades off. Every Widowmine survived. He got 4 probes, but then those Widowmines and the Medevacs got literally nothing done. I think eventually they just died in the corner with no more value taken. I mean, that's the kind of amount. 4 probes for 3 Widowmines and a Medevac, you take that trade there as Protoss. If you're able to do it. The follow-up attack not really getting anything done there for Kier just meant that there wasn't any advantage to his delayed third command center, and as a result, Stats just had a little bit more steam going into the mid-game and played really the smartest possible style, I think, in that kind of position you could. He never went beyond 4 gases, or if he did, it was at the very end of that game, and just designed his composition to be the best at fighting in the mid-game. And by the way, what a cute little move right here with the Reaper. Oh, no Reaper, actually? Just the Marine.
No, just a Marine.
Fooled me, but if there was a Reaper tasteless, that would have been such a cute move.
That would have been much cooler, yeah.
There are some timings like that you can find, especially on a map like Site Delta, where there was all these different paths where the probe can hide, that you can actually, scoot out that probe and really cause some problems there for Terran. But instead, Stats just getting some scouting information, getting some damage on the SCV, and now just macroing up back at home about as safely as you could possibly do it. This is very similar to game number 1 with the Twilight Council and second gateway getting added in. I wonder how much of a deviation we're going to see here from Stats in game 2. I'm very curious if he's going to play the same 4-gas style.
So, we got to basically see how many gates are going to be made over here. Is it going to be 2 or 3? Here comes the Robo, so this is kind of the bread and butter developing Protoss style. Will there be a third Nexus, or does he maybe want to go for the 4-gate play? I still think the 4-gate pressure play is good, especially on maps where the Terran spawns on the left side, because that means all their add-ons point out to the right. So when you go for that kind of harass play, it's easy to get tech labs and reactors and stuff like that. But this is going to be a more generic development style here, similar to what we saw in game 1.
Yeah, 2-gate Twilight Council, Blink coming in, and then the Robo.
By the way, this game is sort of, we're kind of recreating game 1 here.
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit.
I guess we have to see if Kier is going to expand quickly or if he's going to power up on 2 bases.
Yeah, Kier coming in with 4 Widowmines at a little bit later of a stage. He's going to try and pair them up, I think, with the Hellions. And I wonder if he's just going to try and bust down this ramp or instead go for the natural. Looks like just the natural. These might bait away the Stalkers there from that ramp. And
yeah,
Stats is not taking the bait. He knows about the Hellions, so he's just going to play this about as smart and cool as he possibly can. I love this from Stats. A lesser Protoss player probably would have been pulling those Stalkers away from the natural ramp and just causing more problems for themselves. But
yeah,
to have this level-headed approach, just wait until you have the warp ins to actually come in.
He just
clean it up.
Like, didn't overreact.
Yeah, that's very smart. He loses 1 more probe, 5 in total. But you take this trade here as Protoss. 5 workers, you can recover from that. And now Forge coming in, double gases, the natural expansion. I'm loving this from Stats.
It's kind of funny. It's like a really, it feels so good when you get to have that perfect safe play. Like, you know what they're trying to do, and you just keep your cool and basically shut it down. There's another medevac inbound here. The 2 Hellions are still on the map. Basically, Protoss is continuing to develop unimpeded. Another drop over here, but immediately Stats is more than happy to just sacrifice 2 probes to then continue to pump out probes, continue to defend. Here comes the Raven here. He's going to try to chuck an auto turret. I didn't see, there's no battery here, right? Yeah, I guess it'd be too early to have one. So this will actually get a little bit more damage.
Yeah, things are going a little bit better for Kier in terms of harassment early on. Wow, you can get that one probe.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
So in total, is that 11 workers that have gone down here? For
I think
stats,
so.
I think
Yeah.
around that amount. Oh, Widowmine's going to drop again. 2 Stalkers, not enough to actually defuse these before they can plant. Blink is done, so with some finesse micro. Oh, he's retargeting. Oh, he's retargeting. That is so good by Kier. Stats just wanted those Widowmines to pop so that he could blink away and save everything. But Kier just messed up his tempo a little bit, gets all the damage he needs. Yeah, this is a much better early game for Kier than previously.
Yeah, he got way more probes, and the push is going to come out. Now, the harass is done. I think there's still a Raven in the bottom right, so maybe an auto turret will come down there. But the push is going to come out, and this is where we need to see, did all that work pay off with a push that maybe can kill stats here?
I think this time it might be able to do it. These gateways are a little
too.
bit slow getting up. That was a lot more damage sustained by Stats in the early game, and Stats is going to try and do his best to slow down the push and chip away at it with damage with the stalkers he has in the center of the map, but it's a scary proposition stopping this army that Kier has assembled. It is a lot of bio, only 1 siege tank because the factory was just so committed to pumping out Hellions and Widowmines all this time. There's in fact even 4 Widowmines left on the map still at this point. But there is potential for Kier to get a lot of damage done, I think. Stim, very close to completion, maybe 20 seconds out. Their command center underway for Terran too, so this is not an all-in, but oh, it didn't even catch that. 2 turrets in the main base, disrupting the mining time. And now the Widowmine's gonna come in for the follow-up. Kier is playing this in terms of harassment really well, Tasteless.
Yeah, Kier going to come in again for another move. He's got the rest of his army just outside of the base. A move like this is meant to draw a couple more stalkers in there, and that should soften the position up here in the front.
Probes retreating again. So Widowmine's got so many kills over the course of this game, and I wonder if for Kier now, do you try to work your way into the main base? I'm very confused by him moving into the triangle third here. Maybe he was anticipating an early fourth, but instead Stat's going to look for an engagement here. Might have bitten off a little bit more than he could chew, Tasteless. Those Colossi very exposed in the front.
Yeah,
oh,
and one
boy.
is picked off immediately, and there's enough sustain here with these medevacs that there's no way that the Protoss can try to engage with that again. Now, Terran has taken a third base, by the way, so this isn't like a 2-base all-in. But he has not managed to take any bases out yet. He's going to do a big drop up here into the main.
Oh, this could be deadly here for Stats. Those Stalkers even caught out of position. 2 of them immediately get taken out. The third one also
GG.
scurrying away, but GG's called. Stats just taking a little bit too much damage. Kier with the better game plan there in the early game and better execution, able to just slowly chip away at the economy of Protoss and then strikes before Stats truly becomes online.
Yeah, I
well
mean,
played.
That was a very good game. Kier definitely still has it. But, you know, look, the harass early on, it just started to stack up. There was more money being spent just remaking the probes and less money, less money, you know, spent on an army here. So, there you go.
Yeah, it looks like Kier just going to be taking a short break here, going to the restroom, maybe collecting himself, getting ready for this next match, as one more map win will actually send either of these guys, Kier or Stats, to the round of 8, Tasteless.
Yeah, and this is a really tough group. I mean, I don't blame Kier at all for wanting to take his break. If you get out, okay, it's done, it's over. Let the other 3 great players duke it out for that final spot. But whoever loses, it's going to be a very tough group to get out. Dark and Rogue are going to be fighting after this.
Yeah, I would also be interested in seeing the statistics for the final match, because I feel like very often we see the player that comes out of the winner match losing, going into the final match, they usually tend to struggle a little bit because the momentum is just on the side of whoever won the previous set who just played. So a lot on the line here, both for Kier and for Stats, because I don't think it's going to be an easy path forward. Yeah, I mean, TVZ, PVZ can be a tough matchup against either of these guys, Dark or Rogue.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's 2 very scary players, and you just want to do whatever you can to move out. Interesting to see that Kier once again went for like a drop with an immediate followed-up push.
Yeah, I feel like that build plays a little bit better on Site Delta than it does on Oceanborn.
I think so. I think there's more positions that you can exploit there.
Yeah, and also I feel like Kier just doing that in game number 1 realized, how poorly it went. He's like, okay,
Yeah.
I know that it can do better than this. And this is something that we see, I think, a lot in GSL, is a player will do a build, and it will just not go to plan. It'll lose almost spectacularly
Right.
sometimes, and then they'll just do it again in game number 2 because they've played it in practice. They're doing this for a reason.
Well,
they know
might,
that
like,
it's good.
change a few things about it. You know, just give it one more shot. Because, you know, it's different from like a proxy cheese or something. Like, you just need to have positions that are more difficult for the Protoss to deal with. And I think we saw that he was able to do that really nicely. Even with the auto turret coming in, gunning down a couple more probes.
They got like 4 or 5 with the auto turrets. And then
Yeah.
the follow-up Widow Mines with another auto turret coming into the main base before that push at the 3rd. Stats, you could tell, was a little bit out of his element. It seemed like he thought he hadn't sustained quite as much damage as he actually did because he even tried to engage into that army where the triangle turret would have been, and Kier just had enough to sweep him off to his feet and ride that to a victory. And now we're all the way down to Game 3 on Alcyone. Winner of this game is going on into the round of 8 in first place out of Group C. Will it be Stats or Kier? Let's find out.
Let's get ready to rumble, rumble. Let's get ready to rumble. You looking for trouble? Let's get ready to rumble, rumble. Let's get ready to rumble. Tell them it's going down now. Let's
Okay, Stats in the top right and Kier in the bottom left. Winner is going on to that 7th spot in the round of 8. The loser has a nightmare of a rest of the group to try to get through.
Either Rogue or Dark in that final match.
Yeah.
Either way you cut it, you're playing against one of the best Zerg
Yeah,
players
he's-
of all time to try and get into the round of 8.
Yeah.
This is a stack group, man. This is fun.
This is nice. It's always, I mean, I guess it's not that fun for the players when they have to play against, you know, this many good people are eliminating each other early on, but
we were watching the
as a fan, it's great.
we were watching the group nomination. Everybody in this group just seems so sad. It's like, really, we're doing this to ourselves.
I know I have to play these guys eventually to win, but do we have to do it this early? Can I at least get more of a run?
Double gas opening again for Kier, by the way. I wonder if he's going to be doing the relatively low saturation that he's been doing both in Game 1 and Game 2. I think it plays a little bit better at this level. When you get to my level, which is certainly not GSL level, the double gas, where you just throw everybody in the gas geysers, the way that Kier is doing right now, and you just bring out all the cheese. You either have Hook Banshees or Liberators and Widow Mines and Hellions and everything running amok in the early game. Very hard to stop. But at this high level, I kind of prefer the way that Kier's been playing it in Game 1 and Game 2, where you go into the double gas, you get a touch more gas income than you normally would, you tech up a little bit faster, your harassment comes a pace ahead than it would in a normal game, but behind it you still have a relatively strong economy.
Well,
This
you have
time-
options, you know.
Yeah, this time I wonder if Kier is going to pull off. I hope we get another shot of his gas income because I'm just so curious. Terran's one of those races that always kind of feels like a mystery for me when I try to play them and try and get all the builds to line up as well as they do in the GSL.
Oh, isn't that funny when you're like having a lot of losses against a certain race, and you're like, okay, well, I can do this, and you start playing it up, you're like, oh, this is weird.
Yeah, wait, I should be embarrassed. By the way, oh my goodness. That's a sneaky probe.
Yeah, look at that.
Hiding in plain sight right there. I love that move there by Stats. Wouldn't mind coming in. Stargate actually the tech of choice here for Stats and Alcyone. That's very interesting.
Yeah, and it's in a weird spot. It's not in the main. I don't know if this Reaper's going to see it. I don't think you're really looking for anything at this point in time. You can see the Adept doesn't come down right away because he doesn't want to, like, push it into the Stargate either.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that was very well handled there by Stats. A Cyclone's being made.
Yeah, Kier is leaning a little bit more heavily into the
So-
gas this time.
I mean, this could wreck a Stargate build. Starport, excuse me, build.
Yeah, I wonder how this is going to
Or
go.
Stargate, yeah, sorry.
Well, I mean, it
Whatever these
could
builds are.
go either way, really.
Yeah.
Sometimes you see these, if it is a Phoenix build, which I'm kind of assuming it will be here from Stats, we'll see in just a moment, but if it is a Phoenix build,
Yep,
that
there it
Phoenix
is.
does start up, oftentimes this either goes really well for the Protoss player or really badly for the Protoss player. It's kind of rare that it's this middle ground where the games are relatively even. And by the way, did that Reaper actually jump up into the natural to spot it?
I don't know if it spotted it or not.
I was
If
gazing
it
into
got
your
up there,
eyes
yeah, yeah,
tasteless
yeah.
when that Reaper came on screen. I actually didn't get to
he
catch
saw
it.
it. I think he saw it.
Okay. Yeah, so Kier should be able to play this quite smartly. Occasionally, as the Phoenix player, yeah, I look at the Widowmine positioning too, he knows. Occasionally, as the Phoenix player, if you just catch the Terran completely unprepared and they come in with some kind of dropship or just like 1 or 2 Cyclones moving out to just exert a little bit of pressure because nothing can quite catch up to them in the early game, you take down those high-tech units from the factory, from the starport, and the momentum builds so fast. as a Phoenix player. It
Right.
is crazy. But if Terran knows that it's coming, as it seems like Kier does, and certainly he does with this first Marine getting cleaned up here in the middle of the map, you kind of corral your forces. You keep everything very well together. Everything protects each other. It can be hard for the Phoenixes to really get a lot of damage done. So we'll see exactly how this one's going to play out. We do have 3 Phoenix on the map as well as 3 Adepts. There is a shield battery here in the natural expansion. And Kier, I think, is probably going to set his eyes on the Gateway, Cybernetics Court, and Pylon here by the 3rd base. And I believe that Kier with 1 or 2 more Warpins should have enough to clean this up. It's going to be really close, Tasteless, with these reinforcements. Oh, I love the probe coming in to force the Widowmine to lift. He immediately gets it there where the Phoenix is, trades it out for 1 Phoenix.
Yeah, he has another Phoenix to refill that one. But the cyclo damage is really starting to stack.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, the fact that the Cybernetics Core is here, it's a little bit scary. Like, you know, if you lose that, you can't make Stalkers, you can't make any of your other tech. There's an Immortal coming out.
Oh, I feel like with the Immortal, this should be a pretty good engagement here for Stats. We're going to have to see. It should just focus down these Cyclones as best as possibly can. Adepts can make quick work relatively of the Marines, as now the lifts are coming in. The Mineral's not mined out, so there's nowhere for Kier to retreat. Phoenixes are getting taken down here by the Vikings of all things as kind of a wash in terms of engagement. But I think at the end of the day, you got to give this one to Stats. That's pretty good trade, especially with him chasing down these Starport units. One HP, 2 HP here on this Phoenix. Oh, look at the Marine Micro. Nice taser by Kier.
So this is how it ends.
I slightly give the edge there for Stats after that engagement.
Oh, yeah. No, I give it to him by a lot. I mean, he is not invested in proper units now for a game later on here. We've got 3 bases coming up. A bunch of gateways are coming down. Stats is going to complete the rest of his tech with an uninterrupted third base.
The thing is, a couple of Phoenix did get taken out there, though. And Phoenix are one of these units in PvT where you want to build typically a small number of them and then just keep them alive for the remainder of the game, because they're very expensive. At 150 minerals and 100 gas, they're these units that you want to get out early, exert value from, keep alive, and then spend the rest of your resources on getting Colossus out, on getting your tech out, on filling out the other parts of your tech tree.
Right.
So the fact that Stats has to rebuild those is going to slow down in terms of tempo, basically everything else that he also wants to get online. And so a minute or 2 down the road, there might be an opportunity for Kier to actually move across the map and get some real damage done. And that's what I'm concerned about here for Stats. But if he's able to navigate the mid game, he might still be able to ride the momentum, because on paper, those were good trades.
Right. So here comes Kier's third base. It's a little bit late. I don't know when we're going to have another attack. Well, hold on a second. He's just going to move out. This is a very unusual composition. There's no medevac here.
It's a Beyond-esque army.
Yeah. But, you know, what can he get done with this exactly? You know, it's... Well, the Phoenixes are actually going to come across and just pick up and kill some of these SCVs, and there's just nothing to defend this because those Cyclones are so far out. So he's actually getting a lot of worker kills, you know, basically for nothing. I don't think that Colossus is going to be very safe with the 4 Vikings there.
I almost want to say this feels like a blunder from Kier a little bit. Not a massive one, but that army that he moved out with in almost a sharking fashion didn't really get too much done, and Stats recognizes that, sees the army, is like, well, I'll just pick off 5 or 6 SCVs for free then, I guess. Yeah. Thank you.
I guess I'll just take, you know, what I can.
But maybe for Kier, just having the presence on the map like this and then coming in with a follow-up push with a siege tank joining forces is worth it enough here that he's able to sacrifice some of these units. The thing is, that the army here for Stats, very scary. By the way, nice micro there with those Vikings, immediately being able to dispatch one of those Phoenixes. Only 3 of them alive and only 1 Stalker. So these Colossus do not have a lot of support on the ground right now. Another round of Stalkers do get warped in, but we'll have to see how this one plays out. It's scary. By the way, Carrier's in production now for Stats.
Yeah, so he's not going to have that tech for a while. This is going to be a very hard base to hold. Keep in mind, again, no medevac, so if you start to lose the fight, the Protoss will just topple you. Oh, he's going to go for Tempest. He might want to go for Carriers later on, but I think Tempest is probably a better immediate fix for the threats that are happening. I think if he holds this push, he can go back into Carriers later on.
It sounds kind of weird to say this, but the Vikings are kind of the scariest unit in the composition right now, because your main DPS here at Stats is the Colossus. You don't really have the money to replenish, or not to replenish, but to muster up a lot of Stalkers on the ground. So if he's able to get 3 or 5 Tempest out, so they can start 2-shotting or 1-shotting these Vikings here from Kier, that's going to be a really big win for Stats.
I love sending the Zealots out here. It's kind of forced the Terran to go back.
By the way, only 2 Tempest into carriers. A
Yeah.
little bit interested in this choice. Maybe he feels like he needs a little bit more manpower with this army, but I don't know how much value those 2 Tempests are going to get out. This is kind of a tough position to be in as Stats checking so quickly into the Fleet Beacon. It's hard to say what the right call is, but I certainly trust Stats' judgment more than mine.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
So, I mean, the game kind of quiets down here. Terran is still kind of accumulating and getting ready for an inevitable push. It is going to hit. But, every pair of carriers that comes out, it's going to be a lot worse for Terran.
I'm so concerned here for Stats because the carriers are going to be a lot of the DPS. It's carriers and Colossi. They're everything Stats is relying on, and the army on the ground is massive. And if these Vikings could just focus down these critical units, Stats might just get completely toppled here.
It's going to be like a huge reset here. So he's using the Tempest. He can basically hit from afar. Actually, a pretty big deal that Stargate's unpowered and probably will be killed off.
Oh, man, you almost need to overcharge right now. That shield battery finally does get charged up. I believe one of the Tempests got taken out. Yeah, only one of them remaining. 9 Vikings, by the way, on the map. A lot more than you see on screen right now. And Stats, are you actually going to go for this engagement, man? You are brave. He's lifting up the siege tank and the Cyclone. That's not bad.
He takes what he can get, but this means that the Stargate tech is going to continue on.
I guess with the Vikings not all clustered together, it's a little bit scary for Kier to try and engage there. I thought 9 Vikings on paper should be enough to try and have an engagement come through here for Terran, but instead, Kier just going to go back.
And Kier is continuing to grow and blossom on the map here. But the most important thing for Protoss is to get enough carriers. Carriers, it's a funny unit. It's bad when you have 1. Doesn't really do anything, but when you get like 6 or 8, suddenly everything dies.
Mothership is done, by the way.
Yeah.
No Storm just yet, but...
Yeah, Storm probably going to be the final piece of the puzzle here.
This is the most Stats game of all Stats games, by the
yeah,
way.
this is Stats almost being a character of Stats as far as his tech goes. The Mothership's out.
Mothership is out. Still only 1 Tempest. Zealots coming in before that planetary is able to morph, so should get some damage done. And Kier, I think he's going to go for this engagement, Tasteless.
Yeah, I think you're right.
All right, Guardian Shield pops right now. No overcharge with the shield battery just yet. Cloaking come in. Scan immediately drops this. Time Warp actually getting a lot of value, but the Vikings are making quick work of this Sky Fleet. Oh, the Mothership actually doing a great job of tanking, though, Tasteless. Look at how low HP it is. That battery overcharge was able to replenish those shields so quickly.
Another wave of Zealots is going to come
Storm
in over
almost done. It just completed. No EMP yet on these Storms.
Oh.
Goes very high on energy still. A lot of the SCVs did get taken out here at that 4th base. You're only at 67 workers. He is going to be able to maneuver his way all the way up to the 12 o'clock position. This Nexus should get taken out with Stats out of position, but the fleet is coming in. 2 more carriers in production, plus 2 air weapons in production. I think 5 carriers now on the map, still with that 1 Tempest and a lot of Storm. And now Kier is kind of running into this problem where he's just been so committed to the Viking production that he doesn't really have a lot of medevacs. He's building them rapidly to try to replenish. His bio ball is so low on HP. I mean, so much of PvT comes down to the starport units for Terran, especially the medevacs paired up with the bio. A lot of people take for granted, I think, how much the medevacs add to the mix. This army that you see on screen right now with no healing doesn't stand a chance
Well, it's
against
like every
Protoss.
time you stim, and if you don't just win the encounter entirely, you've taken damage. It's permanent.
Yeah, and Stats is so good at just having these sustained fights. And
Okay, here we go, here we go.
he's ready to bring the fight.
He blinks forward, decides to regroup. I think there's 2 more carriers inbound here.
Yeah, 7 carriers in total now on the map. Warp Prism setting up.
Yeah. So it's all going to come down to how he can engage over here.
Keep in mind that Stats being very careful with this Templar control. EMP comes in, able to connect with one of the Templar. The one in the front only has 70 energy, so can't actually come through. Time Warp coming down on all of the Vikings. Look how slow they are. They're in the air. The Colossus making blitzkrieg. Oh my god, the Storm on the Vikings. So much damage done. But Kier might have just enough on the ground to deal with this. Will the Vikings be able to clean up the carriers in the sky?
You know, I think just barely Protoss wins this fight. The Stalkers on the ground are going to come in.
There's basically no interceptors left, though, Tasteless. Only one interceptor among these 3 carriers.
You're right. The interceptors have all been wiped out.
It's going to come down to the gateway units, but these the Marines and Marauders have basically no healing whatsoever. 3-3 is done right now for Terran, but the Stalkers and the Zealots reinforcing, even though it's just a small group of them, are getting so much done. And eventually, these carriers, they will be able to replenish the interceptors. Vikings getting forced down. 1 carrier left here, but Stats might just be able to win this with the ground army.
You know, the emphasis was so much about air versus air, but as the dust settles, it seems like the Protoss' ground army can now just tear through this position.
Yeah, Stats just really capitalizing on the low medevac count here for Kier.
I can't believe Stats is going to take this. He just has to push in here. If he can get into that natural.
I think there's a world, though, that Kier is able to hold this. He already has at least 1 Ghost here on the field with high energy, a lot more are in production. And a lot of the army value here for Stats, it's not in Storm, it's in Archons, which if they get EMP'd, a lot of the HP in this army is immediately going to get taken out. And even more Archons are morphing in.
Yeah, well, it looks like he wants to just try to plow through this position over here.
That's a pretty good EMP.
He's actually baiting out the EMPs on this.
He is, but at the same time, I mean, that hit basically every single Stalker Tasteless. That's a lot of damage. Should Kier be able to take the engagement before those shields regenerate? Oh man, so much of this game is going to hinge on this next fight.
I can't believe he's not sending a Zealot or 2 to these other bases, or even like a Stalker to put behind the minerals.
I think he's assuming it's a planetary, so it isn't even considering it an option right now with his army. Instead, just going to go for the throw right now here, the natural expansion. CC lives to get the best possible arc here for Kier as the Zealots are streaming in on the right side. Kier working his way all the way to the quarter, trying to use his engineering bay to block. And the Archons are getting cleaned up. Look at the army supplies right now, Tasteless. Kier is standing strong on the ground.
Yeah, another big warp in over here in the front. The warp prism is shot down, and so the warp in is canceled.
Oh man, I think Kier might have just enough to hold on. The ground army for Stats just isn't enough. Kier was able to replenish the HP with the medevacs, and the EMPs were so clutch there for Terran. I think Stats might have gotten a little bit overconfident with that push.
Yeah, I think he tried to end the game in a very bad way, and now Kier is broken free from this position. His expansions haven't been destroyed, by the way. So he's still milking them for everything they're worth. And now the counterattack from Kier is looking so scary. GG!
Wow.
Kier takes it.
Kier advancing in first place out of Group C, just barely surviving the onslaught of Stats, who was just a little bit overconfident there. And man, what a well-deserved win from Kier. That was a tough-fought battle for Terran, I must say.
Yeah, that was a hell of a game. I think there was a way for Stats to close that out. It's interesting to see, like in the last maybe minute and a half, 2 minutes, he decided to go for a kill move instead of like maybe like a win more move, like just close out the bases, kind of cut out every other opportunity.
I feel
and go from there. Instead, he just tried to end it, and sometimes stuff like that backfires. We're going to go to an interview now with Kier and see how he's feeling. He's moved on to the round of 8.
All right. Well, Kier, congratulations on advancing in first place to the quarterfinals. How are you feeling? Well, you know, Rogue, I feel like he's playing very well after his military service, and I was actually worried about him coming into this as my first opponent. So I brought out some secret builds that I was, in fact, planning on using later on in the tournament. I think he might be talking about the 3 bunker rush in game number 2 on site Delta. And luckily, through those builds, Kier was able to beat Rogue for the first match. Well, against Rogue, you did go for that 3 bunker play on site Delta. And in both of your series today, you lost the first map and then fought back to win. What was going through your head after the first map of each series? Well, after the loss in both games, I just try to really focus, calm myself down, and try to micro well in the fights because that was my path to victory. So in all those games where I was able to finally crush some armies, that's when I got my confidence back and I felt like it was my key to victory. Well, since you made it out of the group first, you're in the same group as Maru. Your group will contain Maru, Su, and Byun. Maru always seems to stop your way here in the GSL. Well, you know, last season, Maru defeated me once again, but I feel like it wasn't my best performance. I feel like I wasn't able to play to the best of my ability, and so I think that this might be my chance to beat Maru on the big stage.
추가 지은 병력의 부속 건물을 달지 않고 해병전차 쥐어 짜내면서 어떻게든 그 타이밍을 잡으려고 노력한 게 보였고 이겼잖아요. 이게 이병렬에 대한 압박인 건가요? 아니면 그냥 저그전의 이 플레이를 보통은 못 막더라라는 판단이 있었던 건가요?
The Korean casters are now asking about the specific Terran strategies that Kier was going in against Zerg. I believe they're talking about the 2 barrack style in those games against Rogue, because Rogue seemed a little bit shaky against them in the early game. Sorry, I didn't catch quite what Kier's response was to that one. Well, Kier, any words do you have for your fans now that you've advanced to the round of 8? Well, you know, whenever I have matches in big tournaments like the GSL, I always try my best to make it all the way to the finals. So this time I was make it to advance to the round of 16 to the round of 8, and I hope to show even better performance as the tournament continues on.
Cool. All right, congratulations to Kier. Guys, ZVZ coming up next. One of these 2 players is about to be eliminated. We'll be right back.
Celebration, go and gather round, cause I'm ready for dinner. I'm about to have a feast, no second place, I'll be the winner. Let's get ready to rumble, rumble. Let's get ready to rumble. You looking for trouble? Let's get ready. I know the spot, make them watch, let them know they on the clock. Any money more, once I see them, I'ma point them out. Send them up, it's gonna be a minute before they see the ground. Heat them up, talking about the maker, you gon' meet them now. Whoa, they know we near. It's getting hot up in here. You know it getting heated at the top. I'm on fire, I can't stop.
I'm on fire, warm hot, turn me up a notch. 600 degrees, got me burning up the spot. Fresh about the pot, get it till I got. Make a feel flame, I'm on fire, I can't stop. I'm on fire, I can't stop. I'm on fire, I can't stop.
South Beach, make them feel the heat. I can tell you fake before you even speak. I'm just heating up, you hit your peak. We not neck and neck, even in my sleep. He said start a ride, I'ma start a fire. Sweet of the smoke make me come alive. If you see them by my side, then they bonafide. And you can feel the heat, we don't notify. When we come, pick a side, tell them that you down to ride. It's a fire, everything is lit, lighting up the sky. In the air, long way to the ground. Better hope you fly like the time. Only get it once before I pass you by. Oh, they know we near. It's getting hot up in here. You know it getting heated at the top. I'm on fire, I can't stop.
I'm on fire, warm hot, turn me up a notch. 600 degrees, got me burning up the spot. Fresh about the pot, get it till I got. Make a feel flame, I'm on fire, I can't stop.